for the Mashpee Middle High School. And if you just saw that sign come across, we are recording this meeting so that we can share it with parents who are not able to attend tonight. And this is an opportunity to sort of follow up. We had the question and answer parent Zoom in this, I think it was in the summer. And though that was more geared towards what's the opening going to look like and all of those questions around that parents might have had related to transportation and learning. But now that we're sort of in full swing, we wanted to give parents an opportunity as well to ask questions specific to the learning that's taking place, with a caution though that we really don't want you going into in great detail about your own child, because we have other avenues to answer questions and support you in that way. The question, the way this is going to work, which is just like that other meeting as well, is you will type your question into the chat, and the chat questions are all going to Assistant Superintendent Hanscom, and then she will read the questions. So there is anonymity in that respect with your questions as well. And going into this, I just want to say that we did 2 of these last night as well, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, but maybe to a new audience, hopefully. But I just want to acknowledge our teachers in this district have gone above and beyond to create a learning environment that accommodates both in-person learners and remote learners at the same time. And that is really out of everyone's comfort zone. And they are doing a great job. But I want families to really sort of understand that most teachers, most, not all, but most, are type A personalities, and we are perfectionists. And when we have little glitches and things that we've put time into and in our planning, we take it personally. And so it's been a challenge for teachers to sort of embrace this new way of teaching. It's not anything that they were trained to do in all of their teacher prep classes, and they are doing a phenomenal job. We're not perfect, and we hope that through this evening's conversation as well, that if you have want to share things that are going well for your child, that's great. We can build upon those. But also if there are areas that they are struggling in, we need to know that so that we can put some changes in place that might make things better for your child. And if it's better for your child, it's probably better for most children. So that's the point of tonight. I'm going to introduce a few people that are on the screen. So Dr. Hanscom, you can just raise your hand or wave because you're in different orders on different screens. So Dr. Hanscom is the Assistant Superintendent, and she's also the host of this meeting, so she's totally in charge. Patty DeBoer, the superintendent. Mark Balstracci is the principal, Mashpee Middle High School. I'm sure you all know him. Stacy Shackle is our district nurse coordinator this year, and we're very grateful to everything that she's done with our other nurses in the district as well, because they are sort of the COVID guidance people for all of us who are not medically background. We also have Joyce O'Connor, who is the nurse at the Mashpee Middle High School. Jamie Curley is calling in from her vehicle as her child is in a soccer game. She is our Director of Special Education. Susie Brooks is our Director of Instructional Technology. Many of you may have interacted with Susie. She is a rock star who supports our teachers and also our families with anything related to technology and learning. Rewa Melby is the Dean for grades 7, 8, and 9. She's here. Lindsay Kett is our Director of Guidance and College and Career Readiness. Actually, Director of Counseling. Sorry. And you're muted.
Director of School Counseling.
Director of School Counseling.
There you go.
And then we have Ed McDonald, who is the Dean for grades 10, 11, and 12. And then we have a few parents on here. And if I missed any other staff members, maybe I should check page 2. Just let me know. And I'm really grateful that everyone, all the parents that are here tonight are joining us. We really appreciate and we really value getting your insight. Oh, the other thing I wanted to express was gratitude to our parents and families. I think Mashpee, at least, you know, I knock on wood every day, we're experiencing some success with our plan, or pretty much so far successful, but it really can only happen because of our families. And I think we're all sort of on the same wavelength, and we're collaborating to keep our school environment as safe as it can be. And also sort of the tolerance, respect, flexibility, patience that families are demonstrating towards the school district is very much appreciated, because we are doing the best we can, and we're certainly not perfect, but we appreciate partnering with the partnership with our families. So, all right, Dr. Hanscom, any questions?
Well, before we get to the questions, I'm going to just reiterate. So please type your questions into the chat. They'll just come to me, and I don't say who asked them. And most of you I don't know by your names on here. So it really is, you can ask whatever you like. If there is something you ask that I think is about, one student specific, I'm going to write back to you in the chat and refer you to the right person, or I'll connect you with the right person. But otherwise, please throw your questions, comments, concerns, whatever, into the chat, and I'll read them as we go. While we're waiting for folks to do that, Mr. Bellistracci, do you want to just give like a real brief overview of sort of how the beginning of the year's gone?
Absolutely. So thank you everybody for joining us tonight for our question and answer. And thank you for all of your support, flexibility, patience, as we've opened up what is obviously a very unique and school year with some challenges that we're not usually accustomed to. So I'm very, very pleased with the opening of school. Our students, just to be honest up front, our students have been absolutely amazing. They've been wonderful to work with in the building. They've been wonderful to work with and problem solve with while they're home remotely. And I think as we continue to hone our craft and to get more experience with this blended type of instruction and learning, we're only going to get better at it. But for the first, 3 or 4 weeks of school, I'm very grateful to our students, to our families for working with us, problem solving, staying in direct communication. I think all those things have helped us to get off to a very nice start. And hopefully we all continue to experience good health and good fortune with the virus and within our schools. And if we can do that, we'll be pretty successful. So just very pleased with it, and just very grateful for all the support. The well wishes, the comments, the positive emails that are coming out are very, very encouraging, and they're energizing in what is sometimes a draining experience. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the first question, I understand that Zoom meetings are available for extra help during period 8, but is there another option if a child needs more of a one-on-one to get caught up?
So the period 8 is an excellent time to get extra help individually as well. I know that multiple teachers in our building are holding one-on-ones during that time. But they can also schedule those separately if they need to and reach out to the teacher to see their availability. Obviously, we're within the confines of a school day and a work day. But I know that if a student is emailing a teacher and in need of help, our teachers are really flexible. They're very open and will do whatever they can to support any individual student. But I would recommend that if a student is experiencing difficulty, we're really trying to push for the self-advocacy and learning that piece of communication. So we recommend highly that they reach out to that teacher via email and request that support. Our teachers are more than willing to do that. And hopefully, maybe moving forward, if things kind of calm down with the virus and the statistics and the numbers, maybe we can get to more in-person stuff down the road. But right now, please email the teacher. If you're having difficulty communicating with a teacher or contacting a teacher, let us know as administrators, and we'll certainly work to support you.
Great, thank you. How are students doing with lunches?
Well, I'll tell you, they bring the healthiest lunches I've seen, which is awesome. No, they've been fantastic during the lunch. A lot of kids a lot of kids do buy from the cafeteria, but they've done a great job of following all of our protocols, sitting in their assigned seats every single day, and not one issue, which just speaks volumes to our students and families as to how much they want to be here in school, and they're very, very grateful. So I think the lunches have been great. Mr. McDonald and Miss Melby, Mr. Treveri, Mr. Looney, Mrs. Kett, all of our folks have really been all over those lunches to make sure that they're safe and that all the protocols are being followed. So I think it's been very, very successful. A little different, obviously, than they're used to in a regular year, but I think they've acclimated well, and it's been positive.
One of the things I wanted to add, like I've gone through a couple of the lunches at the high school, and the kids, they were able to pick their seat, and then they're generally surrounded by kids that they know and want to have a conversation with. They're distanced, but they can, they still talk to each other. They all have their phones, or many have phones, so they're involved. But it almost seems, and I think it was Rewa that said sometimes it feels like a nice sort of decompression time. And then from what a normal middle high school lunch environment is, which it is what it is, to now it feels much more equitable because everyone has their own desk that they sit at. And so if you're not sort of sitting with I'm going to call it the in group or whatever it is, the way kids cluster at the tables in a regular year. So everyone is the same in these settings. And so I think for a lot of our students that struggle during that setting, it's been a nice equalizer for them as well. And not that kids like generally steal each other's food or anything, but there's a lot of food back and forth in a normal year. And so none of that is happening this year. Everybody's food is their own. But they do seem to be happy when they're in there.
And we did hear that the lunches will continue to be offered from our food services at no cost for the rest of the school year. And so that was really a wonderful announcement that came out last week.
And, you know, for a bag lunch, they keep seeming to get a little bit better and better. I mean, the offerings, it's not what you picture in a bag lunch. Yesterday's was at the high school was the cheeseburger and like potato, you can call them whatever, nuggets, something like that. But it's not what you would have thought was sort of just like this boring sandwich or anything. So, and there's been a lot of creativity in the lunches I've seen across the district. So we've given a whole new definition to what a bag lunch has in it.
Were you going for tater tots there? Was that the word?
That's what it was. Thursday night, I couldn't get that out.
Sorry, I love a good tater tot. So go ahead, Miss Melby.
Potato cake.
Oh, potato cake.
That was the official term.
Even
See,
better.
it wasn't.
Potato cake.
I might have got tots if I'd seen that on the board, but it was a different word.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I have a very, very picky sixth grader at Quashnet who buys lunch now every single day, and he loves it. So Mr. Stickley, Gus Stickley, who's in charge of our food services, has just done incredible work, he and his team, in addition getting those remote lunches out for families who need them on the remote weeks or who are remote learners. So we definitely want to give huge props to Mr. Gus as he goes by.
Yeah, so just a quick reminder about that in case you didn't know that if your child is in their remote week, next week, for example, tomorrow from 1:30 to 2:30 at the Quashnet School is when you can pick up a week's worth of breakfast and lunches for your child. There is a form at the top of the food services page on our website. So generally we need to know ahead of time if you're going to participate so we have enough for everybody, but you just swing in the back and it's brought out to your car. So that's definitely something you should take advantage of if you need to.
Yeah, Gus sends, again, being a parent, I get both sides of the emails. Gus sends an email the Monday or Sunday before you would need to sign up for your child's remote week. And then he sends a reminder email the night before you'd have to sign up, so you really can't miss it. But if you are missing it for whatever reason, you can reach out to any one of us and we'll connect you with him as well. All right, that's a lot on food. Let's go to our next question. Will after-school help and late buses resume in the future?
Well, I think that'll kind of have to be at the mercy a little bit of what the statistics and the data is telling us. So we're obviously looking at that regularly. I know Nurse Shakel is always looking at that and giving us updates and what we can and can't do. So ideally, yes, we'd be able to do that. And I'd love to be able to give you a direct timeline. Unfortunately, we're kind of at the mercy of the virus. So once we have that information, we'll do the best we can. Ideally, yeah, in person is what we want. We want every kid in the building. We want late transportation. We want after-school programs, athletics, et cetera. But we just kind of have to take that, as it comes.
And I don't know, Mrs. DeBoer and I were just on a call with the Commissioner of Education, not just her and me, it was all of us. Yeah, we are not that fancy, but he was discussing some additional guidance that will be coming out next week about how we make those kinds of decisions. But they really are being very cautious and making sure we're tracking the virus sort of smartly and over time. So we're doing really, really well right now because the kids are taking it seriously, families are taking it seriously. They're socially distancing, they're washing hands, they're wearing masks. But I don't know that we're going to open up the after school piece and additional stuff like that too quickly because we do have the winter coming. Go ahead. Yeah.
Add one thing about that. So we're not going to have in-person sort of co-curricular or after school activities, but we are almost to the, probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, those educators at Mashpee Middle High School who wanted to provide something, they have filled out a form and they have established sort of a plan to have it virtually. So in some cases, like if your child is in one of the honor societies or a club, they will be able to participate remotely, and it might be a 7 to 8 o'clock meeting. You know, they're trying to work it out in a way that works best for all the kids who want to participate. So you'll be seeing something coming soon about that, but it will not be in person initially. But we would be able to pivot to that down the road if everything is going well.
Okay, so there are a couple of questions, Mr. Treveri, about sports, looking for updates on sports. When is football going to start? Just, do you want to give us an overview of where we're at?
I mean, we've already started for the fall. So the fall's in full gear. We're playing everything we'd normally play in the fall, with the exception of football, with the exception of volleyball and cheerleading. So we're pretty much full go. The schedules are obviously a little bit smaller. Our level of precautions are off the chart. We're COVID tracking everybody that comes in for every single home game. We're not allowing fans to away game as a league. So it's a ton of changes. It's a ton of work to set up the facility, but we do it for the safety of our student athletes and all of our spectators. We do have a fall 2 season for those sports that aren't running right now. So right now we're looking at the start date of February 22nd for football, for cheer, and for volleyball. And then we'll kind of take it as we go. There will be decisions made by the MIA on EA guidelines based on what they believe and what they're seeing as it pertains to winter sports. Winter sports are going to be very difficult in a lot of ways because they're high-risk sports, including hockey, basketball, and wrestling, which we don't have. Cheerleading is a moderate sport, which will probably run if things go well. But those other sports are going to be very difficult to run this winter, including indoor track, because of facility issues at Reggie Lewis. They're currently closed. Most indoor facilities are limited, and to do dual meets would be astronomically expensive to the district and wouldn't work. So we're working on everything. We have league meetings every single week, and we're on top of it. Once we get guidance and we get to go from the state and from the MIA, we'll offer what we can offer, and we'll do the best we can in terms of facilities and best we can in terms of scheduling. So so far so good. We haven't had any problems. Kids have been great with the mask and being checked in. Our fans have been great. I can't say the same for some opponents that have been here, but our people have been good. So we're excited, and our kids get to go out and run around, and I think they're just appreciative to be able to play. And that's all we tell the kids: just enjoy it because it's a bonus, and we're just happy to be out there at this point.
That's great, thank you. And if people have specific questions that we didn't hit on, you're welcome to email Mr. Treveri anytime, and he can answer them, or really any of us. But if you email me, I'm going to forward it to Mr. Treveri, so it's probably better that you go right to him. Just a reminder, we've admitted a few people since we started. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and then I'm going through and reading the questions as they come in. This next one: what are some flexibilities in place for homework assignments if the student is experiencing technical glitches? Like if a completed assignment was turned in, but somehow the teacher didn't receive it. Is the student going to be penalized if it's submitted late? So I think that's sort of a big question about flexibility and technology and a lot of things that I'll leave you all to answer.
So I can take this one. We're obviously looking at homework. We provided the Block 8, the directed study homeroom period, to make sure that kids have an opportunity while they're here in the building to catch up on work, to complete homework, to get extra help as needed. If there's a specific technical glitch or an issue with Google Classroom, clicking the submit button or the assignment not being visible to the teacher, my recommendation is that the student reach out directly to that teacher via email to let them know. When our teachers are aware that something wasn't visible or wasn't submitted the right way, or there's a number of little steps that can sometimes go awry, as long as they know, they're very, very flexible with accepting work. And we've been working as a team and as a leadership team on being flexible with makeup work at this point in time, especially as we're all kind of learning a new way and teaching a new way. So we want to be cognizant of that. We are cognizant of that fact. But if you do have a tech issue, please let us know. And again, if you're having difficulty getting in touch with a teacher, you can call the main office or one of the house offices, and we can certainly facilitate and share that information. A lot of what we do here in the main office on a daily basis is we do field different calls, and we get in touch directly and immediately with that teacher to let them know whether it's a Zoom meeting issue, whether it's a Google Classroom or an assignment issue. But I highly recommend that you reach out to that teacher directly, as they're the point person for that class, respectively.
Mr. Bellistracci, I think also the question was asking if the student thinks they turned it in, but then finds out that there was a glitch or whatever, what would be their next step?
Well, I think it would be the same thing, just to be in contact with that teacher and letting them know. And our teachers have been great. They've been very flexible with that type of stuff. So, and then they could also help the student if they need to, follow a certain process or steps to get items turned in appropriately. Then they can also review that and go over that with them.
Great, thank you. There are a couple of really nice comments, and because our jobs are hard, I'm going to read them because I think it's nice to hear positive feedback. Don't have a specific question yet, but I want to commend the Mashpee school team for doing such a phenomenal job. I want to thank you all for your hard work and dedication to our school and students. A very specific thank you very much for the Block 8 schedule. And I know that would make me very happy too as a parent, that's in place. And I know kids are taking advantage of that time to really connect with their teachers, do their homework, kind of manage the organization of what it is we're trying to do here. So the next question, will there be a play this year?
So as Superintendent Bohr mentioned earlier, we're in the process of looking at our after-school activities. It's all going to be within what we're able to do. I know that we are in Mashpee, we seem to be great problem solvers. So we're always looking for ways that we can do things in a unique way. Where others say we can't, we always try to find a way to do things. So I don't have a 100% answer right now, but I know that we're in discussions to see how we can possibly make that happen moving forward. It might not be in November, it might be in December or something, but at least we know we're in those initial discussions.
Or it could be in the spring, and it might even require us to select a certain play that promotes the environment we need it to be. So anyway, there's a lot of variables there, but we want to make sure we're able to provide that drama experience for those students who value that greatly, and that's their thing, and we want to make sure we're able to give it to them. So we'll hopefully get guidance from Desi on that coming down the road.
And because I learned from another parent that when we say DESE, sometimes people don't know what that is. That's the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Used to be called the DOE, but you'll hear us call it DESE a lot. Somebody thought once that there was a person named DESE that we kept referring to, which I think is funny, actually. Okay, if my child is sick or it needs to stay home, can they still participate in school?
No, and that rule really hasn't changed. That's not.
Oh,
really,
wait, Mr. Taveri, it wasn't sports, but I'm glad you brought that up
okay.
because maybe you can, can they participate in school? And I'm going to add, can they participate in sports?
No, they have to be in school for the full day. And part of that, I think one thing that we go over with parents all the time is they can't go home in the middle of the day and come back. We actually are taking an additional step to temp checking kids, which I think parents have been actually very appreciative of. It's not even about COVID, it's about other diseases when we're on buses or anything that's communicable. So if they do go home and do not finish a full day, they cannot participate in athletics for us, or if they're not in school because of that, because they're sick, they cannot participate either.
But can they participate if they've had a remote day? Can they participate in sports?
Just a remote day, yes.
Well,
yes.
in other words, and Mr. B, maybe you were going to answer this. I know that Mrs. DeBoer has talked about if a student, has a tickly throat, has a symptom, but isn't really sick, they can participate, right, in their learning from home. And we would call that, if they participated, a present day. So
Yes.
Is that something that would affect sports, though?
Well, I think, so for our perspective, obviously if a student is well enough, if they have something that could be a symptom or maybe considered a symptom, we obviously want you to err on the side of extreme caution and keep your student home. With that being said, they can absolutely access their schooling throughout the day as a remote learner for that particular day or number of days, depending on how long they're not feeling well. We do respectfully ask, and I know that we sent this out in a correspondence a week or so ago, that if your child is experiencing some type of symptom and you're going to keep them home remotely, we greatly appreciate a call into our attendance line to our nurse's office to just make us aware, so that we can support you, your family, your student, and also make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep a safe environment here as well. So yes, you absolutely can come in remotely, and you will be marked remote present if you get on those respective courses.
But if you have a symptom of some sort that kept you home but remote present, you cannot come in for sports because there's a chance that
Right.
you couldn't self-certify that you were
Correct.
safe. Okay, that's
But I do want families just to keep everything in perspective, because I never want a child who has a symptom or two coming to school because they have a sporting event later in the day and they don't want to miss participating in that. Like in the big picture of the world, missing a game or missing a practice is not the end of the world. We want you to stay home if you have symptoms. If you're well enough to participate in your classes, great, but understand we're not looking for you to bring those symptoms with you to a field and then interact. And like Matt said, you know, we're taking kids' temperatures and we're monitoring that, but we really, you know, you have to do what's best for the greater good in that one particular day or however many days it might be.
And if the student is going remote because they are not feeling well, that's the main objective, to switch to remote, then there's your answer as to whether or not they should be participating in any after school activities. And that would be no.
in person.
In person.
Right. Great. When is picture day for MMHS?
Well, we just actually finalized those. Let me just pull up my calendar real quick. I believe it's in November. O'Connor Studios does our pictures up here at the middle high school level. So they'll be sending you direct communication regarding packages, ordering, all that type of stuff. But just let me get the dates really quickly. We have November 4th for the Mashpee cohort and November 10th for the Falcon cohort. The only caveat to this is that cap and gown pictures will not be taken this fall. We're going to try to get the caps and gowns earlier. We just can't be sharing the same traditional cap and gown that kids would usually do during a picture day in the fall. So the only difference will be you'll get a separate correspondence once we get those caps and gowns in to do those individual senior portraits for the school. But those two dates, the 4th for the Mashpee cohort and the 10th for the Falcon cohort, that'll be shared out with O'Connor Studios directly to the families.
And can I ask, just if I'm a 100% remote learner at MMHS, is there a time that I am going to be able to have a picture taken?
We're going to be doing it by grade level. So when we break that information up, we certainly want kids that are remote to be able to get their portrait taken, should they want to. So we'll work on that and get more information out to families.
Okay, next question. Is there any way to access class recordings?
So unfortunately, no, unless there's two ways to look at it. So if a teacher is using like Flipgrid or Screencastify or one of those applications where they're providing direct instruction through a video, then absolutely you can review that and they would be posting that to their respective classroom. However, due to a number of reasons, including confidentiality, other students, among other things, we're not able to share the recorded Zoom sessions with families at this time. And I'm sure Superintendent DeBoer can elaborate on that if needed.
Yeah, the recording was really meant for the teacher, from the teacher's perspective. And we appreciate everyone who basically has agreed to allow for that recording. But it's not meant to be something that you can access, 2 hours later because you missed something. But again, you need to reach out, because if there was something in the Zoom meeting that was important and a child can't remember it or whatever the reason is, the teacher will put that information up for them. So just make sure they reach out for whatever they need.
Yeah, it's really important to think of it like the person is in front of the teacher. And I know there were times in school when the teacher said something to me and I completely forgot what it was. And so we just have to sort of act like there's no recording and go and ask the teacher for assistance if we need it. And just a reminder that everyone has signed off that they are not recording the classrooms from home. They're not sharing anything about what's going on in the classroom on social media. It's really, really important that everyone adheres to that for a variety of reasons, but the biggest is the civil rights of our kids. So please just keep that in mind. And if you have questions about whether you can or can't do something related to recording, reach out to any one of us and we're happy to talk you through it. Okay, next question. If a child has a doctor's appointment, like an orthodontist in the morning, and they are in school learning that week, can they still go to school? Or if they're remote, can they still log into classes? I'm assuming it means like after the appointment's over.
Yeah, so to answer that question, the answer to that is absolutely yes. We're trying to keep it as routine as possible, as long as there's no all of a sudden, I'm sure Nurse Stacy can elaborate, but as long as there's no new symptoms or new anything else, and you can self-certify to return safely, then you can absolutely take your child out or student out for an appointment and bring them back.
Very well said. Correct.
While we have you, Nurse Stacy, what happens if someone in my child's class tests positive?
So again, it's all individualized depending on the situation, location, all of those things. We will be notifying individuals that are identified as close contacts individually if there is a positive case in any of our schools. And as of this recording, there aren't any positive confirmed cases in Mashpee, but people would be notified that Mashpee has a positive case with no other identifying information. And then those individuals who are identified as a close contact would be notified individually.
Oh, that was it. Okay. Sorry, I was waiting for more. Okay. If my child is a remote learner, can I switch them to hybrid?
So the answer to that question is also yes. We want to provide that opportunity for our students. The only thing that we respectfully ask is that you give us about a 2-week lead time to be able to get transportation if it's needed, but also to look at our scheduling and trying to balance everything out. When you're going from a hybrid to a remote learner, that's a little bit more of an easy process than the opposite. So if you are a remote learner currently and you'd like to have your student become a hybrid learner, you email me directly, and then I inform our counseling team, who's done a phenomenal job balancing everything out, and then they kind of go through the process to see if we're going to overload in a class or if we'll be able to come to the number of 10 or so that we need. So we just ask for a 2-week lead time, but absolutely please email me directly, and I'm happy to start that process for anyone who needs it.
And would that ever potentially result in a switch of cohorts? Spacing or no?
That would depend specifically on the individual and how many classes are impacted. So I think that if there is a need for a cohort change, we obviously throw the options by any family or parent or guardian to let them know what the impacts are if they are to move cohorts or if they're going to stay in the same cohort and have minor tweaks to a schedule. But it's just very delicate. We offer over 285 individual class sections here at Mashpee Middle High School, which is outstanding. And we're able to offer pretty much almost every single program that we always have traditionally. So in order to do that, it's a little bit more complex when you're looking to make a change to in-person learning. But our staff's done a great job. Our guidance department's done a phenomenal job. So we can certainly just do our best to make everything work out.
And yeah, Mr. Bellistracci is nicer than I am. I would say 2 weeks. We've been able to do it within 2 weeks since school started. We're getting closer to the point where it will take a little bit longer than that, particularly for transportation. And there could potentially be a point at which we can't change transportation. In other words, we'll run out of room on the bus. So if you can drive your student, if you're remote and you want to come in hybrid and you can drive your student, that's awesome. And that can make it a lot easier. That would be closer to the 2-week range. If you can't, then we'll do our very best. And so far we've been able to do it. The other thing with changing cohorts is we did have somebody move within Mashpee in the middle of, in September. And so their cohort changed as a result of that because they needed transportation. Because if the buses only run on certain weeks in the middle high school level. So there are a lot of kind of components to it. 2 weeks we've been able to do, but I just want to put that caveat out there that the longer we go, the more kids we move and the more kids we transport, the longer it could take. So that's where we're at with that. The next question is about the connectivity. So there's 3 kids at home, all doing remote, not able to connect, they're missing stuff. What can parents do when something like that has happened? I know they can reach out to you, Susie, but what are some of the other ideas that families can try?
Right. Like right now, I'm sitting here on Zoom and I'm lucky there's nobody else logged in my house. I don't have any kids at home anymore, so I'm actually in an ideal situation to be Zooming. But I still get the messages on my computer saying that the system is slow or whatever the message is. But I have my Brady Bunch view open right now, which takes up more processing than just putting in that single speaker view. That helps. If you've already checked in with your teacher and you've received permission to be able to shut off your camera, that might help as well. Knowing that there are 3 different age levels, I know that that's really hard, especially if you have other devices. You have to also think about, do you have your television attached to your internet? Is my thermostat's attached? My refrigerator used to be attached. So you have to think about that Internet of Things and what is connecting to your Wi-Fi. I do have on the technology support page that's on our remote learning site. It's one technology button is on every school. There's a list of things that you can try to troubleshoot some of those connections. You can also contact your cable company, whoever it is that you're using to receive your connection, to have them help you troubleshoot. You can there's an online speed test to see what your speed is. I agree, it's hard to have several learners on at the same time. Hopefully not all of them for hours at a time, but it's pretty tricky. If you're really having a lot of trouble, Mr. Maroney also is a great troubleshooter. He has that next level of knowledge when it comes to all of the ins and outs of connectivity. But don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're going to give you some suggestions, and if you're still having trouble, we'll try and make up some more. Just kidding, but we'll definitely try to keep helping you. We want it to be able to work.
And if I can just add to that as well, a couple of times that we've been working to help students get connected at home when they are having difficulties. A lot of times you have devices that automatically hook up to your Wi-Fi or internet service automatically, and you don't even realize that they're taking up the bandwidth. So we recommend, if you have an Xbox or a PlayStation that's disconnected. I know it's one of the hardest things to do for all of us, and especially our kids, is turning the Wi-Fi off on the cell phone and just trying to keep as few devices connected as possible. But I know sometimes, like the gaming devices take up a lot of speed and a lot of bandwidth. So that's one thing just to take a look at if your student is using those types of devices.
Yeah, I have a Roomba, and that uses our internet as well. Mr. Maroney, so if you've already talked to Susie and you're still struggling, the other options, Mr. Maroney is sort of the next level in terms of the hardware stuff that he can talk to you about. But the other piece is, if your child misses something in class as a result of that, it's really important that your child reach out to that teacher through email, even if they feel uncomfortable, even if they feel stressed about it. That communication is really important, because the teachers will absolutely understand what's going on and will also maybe be able to problem solve and maybe put some stuff on video. Maybe they'll realize, oh, you know what, I need to flip this classroom a little bit because so-and-so can't access it when it's live. So the more you can communicate with the teachers too, the better. Okay, the next question: under what positive test circumstances, if any, would an entire in-person classroom be required to stay home?
Again, that'll be very situational based. There's no one set answer to that. It's all based on contact tracing and close contact. Right now, our classrooms are 6 feet apart, with everyone masked facing the same direction. But again, it's going to be a case by case. So I honestly cannot give you a specific scenario.
Okay, so those are the questions I have in the chat. I'm not sure if there's anything that wasn't asked that the Mashpee folks wanted to hit on.
I just want to remind, just not related to the learning actually, but a reminder that November 3rd is the election day, and that's a Tuesday, and there is voting at Quashnet. But for the district, it's a non-school, non-work day. When we built the calendar, we added a day in June. So just so you know, that Tuesday, teachers are off. Students are not expected to be Zooming or working on, well, they could probably have homework, but they're not expected to Zoom into classrooms. That is a non-school day in Mashpee. So just so you know. Sorry, I think Susie was going to say something.
I just was thinking about the fact that I know a lot of the students out there have the newer Chromebooks that have the flat chargers on them as opposed to the round charger with the blue tip on it. I just want to make sure that when they're plugging in their Chromebooks to charge, those newer Chromebooks have like 3 holes that that charger will fit into. But the one you want to choose is the one that has a tiny little light bulb next to it. It's on the right side of the Chromebook. So to be plugging it in correctly, you want to be on the right side. We have found that students that have been plugging it in on the wrong side, the Chromebook can die and I can't get them to turn back on. We're still looking for a fix. If you have the blue cord, there's only one place that you can plug it in, so you don't have to worry about that. But it's just going to be one more stopgap measure. We're coming up with new problems every day, but thankfully we're coming up with new solutions every day to match some of them. So that would be really helpful.
Great. Anything else anyone wants to add?
If I just could, I think the biggest thing moving forward, and I think why it's been a successful start to the year is just the level of communication with our schools and our families and students. So we don't want you to suffer in silence. If you're experiencing difficulty, please let us know as soon as you are experiencing it so that we can support you and so that we're aware. That communication line is vital. And it's really been very effective and helpful. So I can just reiterate that to everyone who's on the call today. Thank you for being here. But for those who are going to see it in recording, please communicate with us. If you need support, that's what we're here to do. And, you know, I just want to continue to push that communication piece.
And also too, if you have conversations with your child at the end of whether they're a remote learning day or an in-person learning day, and they're sharing any kind of sort of struggle or negative comments, please make sure those get shared with us, because they, you know, if your child is experiencing it, many others could as well. And we just don't want, we don't want to have that experience if we can help it. And I think we can problem solve together, but we do need that communication piece where, because sometimes obviously kids will tell their parents more than they might share with us, but we can fix things for everyone. So please make sure that, one, that you're listening and not just listening to the answer, everything's fine. A few more questions might be good, and then help us solve the problem with you. So.
And we like to hear the good stuff too, which there are 2 more really nice comments in the chat. Thank you for all that you do. Proud to be a part of Mashpee School, and great job. But so we want to hear the good, the bad, and really not the indifferent so much, but the good and the bad for sure. If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, or you continue to have anything you need elaborated on, whatever, please reach out to any one of us. This has been recorded. Mrs. DeVore will send it out so other folks can watch. But we are very grateful. None of this happens without all of you doing what you're doing at home, and what you're doing with your kids. So there's no way we could be doing this as well if families weren't as on board. So we're super grateful, and we'll stop the recording there and say thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.